Hello and welcome back. In today's archives, we're unpacking how situations escalate when someone feels unheard or dismissed. STJ Squad, let's check it out. What begins as a complaint about a stop sign ends in tasers, arrests, and criminal charges. The man insists that there was no stop sign at the time of his arrest. He believes it appeared afterward. He accuses officers of not listening and not properly documenting his complaint. He also mentions harassment. This word matters more than you think because harassment is alleged. The situation shifts from disagreement to accusation. Now, the interaction is not just about facts. It's about perceived mistreatment. His tone is loud. His frustration is visible. But loud does not automatically mean threatening. What we are watching at this stage is someone who feels unheard and possibly targeted. And this is exactly where authority and emotion begin to collide. Officers are trained to assess threats quickly, while on the other hand, raised voices can be interpreted as instability or potential escalation. But we all know volume is not the same as physical aggression. Physical aggression is the use of bodily force such as hitting, kicking, biting, or pushing with the direct intent to cause physical harm, pain, or injury to another person. From what will be clear at some point in this footage, there is no clear lunge forward and no physical strike before the first taser deployment. There's active frustration after the second deployment of the taser. That sign of frustration creates a perception gap. One side is expressing anger verbally, and the other side may be interpreting that anger as a risk. So we can see the first taser is deployed, but it does not immediately incapacitate him. He swipes at the air, not toward the officer, but dismissively. That gesture can be interpreted in different ways. One, as defiance. 2, non-compliance. 3, resistance. Or simply as disbelief. In high-pressure moments, interpretation shapes response. A second taser deployment follows and brings him down. At this point, the interaction changes. The complaint is no longer central. Custody becomes central. As he goes down, the girlfriend reacts as well. And guess what? She gets tased also. I can almost assure you the moment she hit that ground, everything shifted. When someone sees a loved one getting tased, the brain doesn't process it calmly. Adrenaline spikes, protective instinct activates, fear mixes with anger. The action is called being human. When someone sees a loved one gets tased, the brain doesn't process it calmly. What happens is the adrenaline spikes, protective instinct activates, fear mixes with anger. That reaction right there is called being human. While others may call it, you guessed it, escalation before aggression. But we all know, in high pressure situations, human emotion and law enforcement procedures do not collide. What feels like protection in that moment can be interpreted as interference. And once that line is crossed, escalation situations get absolutely out of hand. And we all know that there is something deeply human about wanting to protect someone you love. But in high pressure encounters, protective instinct can be misread. What feels like defense in one mind can look like interference in another. That perception gap matters a lot. And when forced into the situation, emotional intensity multiplies, a raised voice becomes sharper, movement becomes more sudden, officers shift from conversation mode to control mode, and once that shift happens, the escalation becomes harder and harder. STJ Squad, let's just be honest. This is how situations really spiral. Not always from intent, but from emotion. She is later charged with disorderly conduct and battery on an officer. The girlfriend is charged because she did not stay quiet. She interfered with the arrest that they was trying to make on her boyfriend. But like we discussed earlier, she was not wrong. It was someone that she loved. But in the police eyes, she was absolutely wrong. And as we said earlier, emotional reaction is very common. So what we're really looking at here is how force leads to reaction. Reaction leads to additional charges. Escalation intensity increases. At some point, accusations of racism are introduced. When racism enters and already tense interactions are going on, the emotional intensity increases almost immediately. Now the situation expands beyond the stop sign. It becomes about identity and perceived targeting. Whether bias was present is a legal question. But the perception of bias can intensify emotional response in real time. Eventually, both individuals are taken into custody. The original complaint about documentation is no longer the focus. Procedure takes over. And what began as a dispute about a stop sign has now resulted in taser deployment, arrest, and criminal charges. This interaction did not begin with physical violence. It began with frustration. It escalated through perceived injustice, raised tone, authority interpretation, forced deployment, emotional reaction, and additional charges. Escalation is rare to one decision. It's a buildup from complaint to confrontation to custody. Thank you so much again, STJ Squad, for tuning in to Spilling the Juice Archives, where we don't just react, we analyze. The Spilling the Juice book series is available at spillingthejuice.com and on all major book platforms. STJ Archives, signing off.